Okay, YouTube. I admit it. I'm a sports fan. Not only am I a sports fan, I'm a sports fan that's been cursed to root for Detroit teams. On a different note, I'm also an esports and FGC fan. I'm not, however, a big virtual sports fan. You're not going to see me talk much about games like Madden or FIFA or MLB The Show. That phase of my life is long gone, mainly because it's the same damn game with minimal tweaks every year. Or ways to suck money from your wallet. It's not to say I despise all sports games. There's games like NBA Jam that are really fun to play since most of the rules are thrown out or simplified. Plus, you get to dunk a basketball from 20 feet in the air as Shaq. I've also recently found enjoyment in big tournament golf, also known as Neo Turf Masters. I prefer my games more simplistic and less combo trials in King of Fighters 13. But Neo Turf Masters has got me thinking. Is it possible for sports games to be like fighting games? Well, in the literal sense, the answer is no. But I think it is possible for certain sports games to have qualities similar enough to fighting games. Today, we're going to look at a few different games to see if sports games can be like fighting games. You might be surprised how closely they compare.
Fighters ready. Engage.
What kind of qualities would make a sports game similar to a fighting game? I want to lay out my criteria to try and answer that question. It needs to reject the notion of reality, or have something like exaggerated physics, be easy to pick up but hard to master, have secret mechanics that are either not told to the player or are unintentional, and have a diverse cast of characters with their own unique traits. And I'll give out some bonus points if you compete directly against another player. If a game fails to meet the majority of these criteria, they are not close enough to fighting games. For example, the Madden series is a realistic sports simulation. That means it closely follows reality, is difficult to pick up, let alone master, and has all of its mechanics available as public knowledge from the developer. It does have a large cast of players and teams, but you won't see anyone making tier lists about these games. You're more likely to see simulated predictions of who's going to win the Super Bowl. Absolutely not like a fighting game. Now that we have the rules written, let's see if any of these games break their written rules, like the Crush the Car bonus stage. Our first sport we're looking at is golf, which is represented by Neo Turf Masters, also known as Big Tournament Golf. This was a 1996 Neo Geo golf game developed by Nazca, also known for the Metal Slug series. This game has a good understanding of how golf is played, with things like club selection, bunkers and hazards, hooking and slicing, and so on. It uses a simple two-click swing system, one for power and one for height. You can also hit two of the buttons to determine how much the ball hooks or slices on a shot. You can also apply topspin or backspin to a ball to extend or retract a shot. This can't be done with wood clubs, by the way. Spin isn't told to you in an official capacity, i.e. not in the how to play instructions, so word of mouth or accidental discovery is the best way to know that putting spin on a ball exists. Putting, the hardest aspect of any golf game, is easy to understand if you can read the green. Getting the perfect on makes all the difference between an easy putt and an uphill putt. None of the courses in the game are based on real-life courses to my knowledge, but I don't know where in the world you'd be able to tee off a shot on the other side of a cliff or a waterfall. These are probably some of the most difficult golf courses ever designed, and don't even get started on a hole 16 on the Australia course.
Do not know what all the fuss was about. Understood it perfectly.
But picking the right golfer can make a world of difference. You have guys that are good at getting their shot to land where they want it, guys that are good at driving the crap out of the ball from the tee, and guys who have a great short game on the putting green. Some golfers are situationally good, while a couple are jacks of all trades. But if you need to know who the best overall golfer in the game is, it's Robert Landl, the German shot maker. Don't take my word for it. Unlike simulation golf, Neo Turf Masters cuts a quick pace, making getting through a full 18-hole course relatively fast. Or not, since the courses are so punishing for rookie mistakes. And you lose available playtime if you shoot over par.
Oh no!
It's unmistakably an arcade game. It values your quarters much more than your time. Could Neo Turf Masters be considered similar to a fighting game? I say yes, with a caveat. You can get a grasp on the game easily and pick a character that suits your playstyle. However, the caveat is that you're not directly competing against another player unless you're playing match play. It also makes sure to boot you from the NVS cabinet as fast as possible with its fast pace and semi-realistic courses that are tough as nails. Good luck not using save states to stay under par. We go from golf balls to flying discs with our next game. Frickin' Windjammers. This is a video game. Windjammers and its sequel is basically Pong on crack. It uses frisbees in a sport that's a hyperactive blend of volleyball, tennis, and soccer. And I'll just quickly get this out of the way, this is a fighting game. It's unlike any sport on the planet, and it's fun as hell to watch. Just look at it! Look at it!
Uses the offensive super with the meter in order to stick it to the wall faster, but Kowtow is still able to react.
The characters in this game are bending the rules of disc-based physics by having the disc circle around in a spring pattern, or by saw-blading it across the ground. I'm not sure if it's possible to saw-blade a frisbee like that in real life, I'm not an expert on physics. And there's these super throws that launch the frisbee like a fireball into one of the goal zones. Windjammers has its own colorful cast of characters from around the globe, but from what I can tell, it only affects their throw patterns and super throws in the sequel. There is no right or wrong character in the game, and the French players who played this game to death straight up say there's no concrete tier list as to which character is the best. Some characters are also faster than others. I already said that Windjammers is pretty much a fighting game that also happens to be a sport, but it's unlike any sport on Earth and would be really fun to watch if it was a real sport. Plus, I don't think you can throw a frisbee like that.
Akun with a lead, but still more than enough time for Pyrotech to pull ahead.
There, this is a fight right now. Oh, wow, wow. Kuna up 11-6.
And again, 11 is when bad things start to happen.
Unless we got 8 seconds left. We got, there you go.
And he scores.
So maybe this is Keikun turning it around.
So far, we've got 2 great games that are basically like fighting games. But one of the reasons I wanted to do this kind of video was to answer a burning question. Are Midway sports games like fighting games? Midway, known for the Mortal Kombat series and its late 2000s bankruptcy, made some of the best arcade sports games of all time. There's a reason why Tim Kitzrow's catchphrase is associated with basketball, just how good NBA Jam was. While not the first game of its kind, that arguably belongs to Midway's own arch-rivals, NBA Jam was the first to get it right. It's 2-on-2 basketball with simplified rules, no fouls, and high-flying dunks that would make superheroes jealous. Plus, the ball catches on fire when you score 3 times in a row. This formula was so good that Midway tried it with other sports games, most notably football with NFL Blitz. Similar to Jam, the football gameplay is sped up significantly, teams are downsized, there are no fouls, and players can perform superhuman feats of athleticism. Translating that combination to Blitz essentially turned football players into pro wrestlers, to the disapproval of the NFL. Midway sports games had easy control schemes, so at the bare minimum you could just pass and shoot the ball in Jam. But in order to attack, one must learn how to defend, especially against the cheating AI. Sometimes you'll find yourself having to give the ball carrier a little push to stop them from scoring or force them to drop the ball. Other times, you'll have to jump to block a shot. Just don't do it in front of the net, goaltending's still a thing. You also need to take advantage of your turbo meter to do things like run faster, perform dunks, or push a man to the hardwood. Remember that 3 is the magic number. 3 consecutive scores in Jam gets you on fire, and 3 complete passes in later versions of NFL Blitz lights the fire. It buffs your players so they can perform monster jams or toss a flaming pigskin 70 yards downfield. However, there are no big secrets in the controls. Midway sports games were known for their deeper secrets in that golden era of cheat codes. Jam had hot spots, a specific point on the court where players would never miss a shot, although you'd never know unless you tried to scour the court for where you could never miss a three-pointer. It was also chock full of goofy cosmetic modifiers where, for example, you'd play as the renowned Guilty Gear fan and Reformed Orthodox Rabbi William Billiam Clinton, or one of the NBA's mascots. Most famously, you could inflate players' heads to about 3 times their normal size. Or there were cheats that could put you at an unfair advantage, like having unlimited turbo meter. If you felt someone was being cheeky about cheats, you could threaten them with enabling tournament mode, which disables all cheats.
Kenny, I swear to God, if you try to put in cheats, I will put on tournament mode.
It's a legitimate threat. Do I consider Midway sports games to be fighting games? I'm leaning more towards no. It has a lot of variety in teams and players, plus a boatload of goofy cheats, but every player feels similar to one another with some different tweaks to reflect their real-life playing career stats. For instance, Shaq can dunk hard, but he can't toss up a three-pointer to save his life. Wait, why am I referring to him in present tense when he's retired? And then the secret characters are overpowered. Similar story with Blitz, everyone plays almost exactly the same, but the different character heads are just for show. They feel more like party games than fighting games, complete with RNG in Blitz. These games were close to being like fighting games, but they just fell short of the goal line for me.
A gutsy call. Heads up field. That was terrible.
When I put together the idea for this video, I wanted to make sure that combat sports like MMA, boxing, or wrestling were ineligible. You do end up physically abusing your opponents in these games, but like with Madden, they generally try to be as realistic as possible. And no, WWE games don't count since they strongly emphasize timing and don't do moves that aren't too far outside of the ordinary. I do have one exception, though. This is where I'd queue up Let's Get Dirty by Redman, but YouTube copyright said otherwise. Instead, enjoy this short montage of our last game with some royalty-free hip-hop music.
Now, Elfman gotta get worried, flood it out, you gotta make something happen, bro. Oh, the clock is ticking. One more sequence is gonna do it. Oh! You got the goal again. Oh! That's that shit in half over your core. Oh my god! Okay, so we finally see what that pole does. Pole his health went to 0.
You can't be a pimp if you get owned like a hoe.
Of course, I'm talking about Def Jam Fight for New York. This game was the final evolution of a gameplay formula designed by Aki Corporation that was popularized by N64 wrestling games, like WCW NWO Revenge or WWF No Mercy. Aki took the mechanics that were largely unchanged from the predecessor Def Jam Vendetta and fleshed it out more so that it wasn't strictly a wrestling game. The combat in the game is a blend of brawling and wrestling. Grappling an opponent is still key to dishing out damage, as well as knowing the timing for reversals. Of course, it wouldn't be a proper wrestling-like game without the crowd bringing weapons for you to grab. Pool cues, sledgehammers, bottles, 2x4s, and so on. You don't KO your opponent like a fighting game, or even like a wrestling game for that matter. You either force your opponent into submission by breaking a limb, or, the fun way, finishing them off with a strong attack, a wall splat, or with a weapon.
For a big grab? Not quite. He's going for the win. Yeah, he wants him to get in the red before he hits the blazing. That's a wall splat. And get the guaranteed follow-up. This is Currents right here. Oh, this is it. Oh! He dropped the bottle earlier and picked that shit back up. Oh my god, what?
Similar to modern fighting games, Fight for New York has an in-depth story that's actually really good. You play as a custom fighter as he makes his way up the underground fight clubs in New York City, working with Method Man and Redman's gang to take down Crow, aka Snoop Dogg. Twists, turns, bling, and blood are all what Fight for New York's story is about. The roster seems almost comical by even modern standards. Who knew you could have fun pitting up to 4 different rappers and actors against each other? There's the hip-hop stars of the early to mid-2000s like the aforementioned Redman, Method Man, and Snoop Dogg, as well as other personalities like Henry Rollins, Carmen Electra, and Machete himself, Danny Trejo. Think about it, Danny frickin' Trejo fighting Ludacris, Ice-T, and Flava Flav.
150 points, you know you ain't doing no damage. Damn, reset. Oh my god. Oh my god. Yo, scraped his face across the cage,
He's
no
in
machete.
danger with 7. He's dead.
Oh damn, oh damn, already it's like that.
Danny fucking Trejo, baby. He took the headphones off and said, you better know who I am.
Or maybe one of the dozen original characters like Bo or Masa. Fight for New York definitely fits the bill of being like a fighting game despite its wrestling origins. There's a die-hard competitive scene for this game that gets its time to shine at tournaments like CEO. Because people play the shit at fighting game tournaments, the game's community has broken down the game to a science and has character tier lists, and as a result of all the research, the community determined that several characters are busted as all hell. So if you were expecting to see Carmen Electra or Snoop Dogg in tournament, you're SOL, as they're overpowered AF. But what you do see in tournament play is amazing.
Matter of fact, this is my block.
Oh, it's over.
Oh, like that, yeah, man.
The pop off from Hatman. Yeah, yeah. Oh,
Let him know. Let him know.
oh yeah. He said it's my game.
Really, this is only scratching the surface of what could count as a fighting game. If the games I mentioned here are the only sports games that are similar to fighting games, then it should give you an idea of what might or might not be a fighting game. I didn't even mention games like Lethal League or WWE All-Stars. You can love both sports and fighting games. I do, and I love looking for games that blend both genres. They produce some of the most hyped and memorable games, and they're also fun to play and a lot of fun to watch. You don't even have to be a sports or fighting game fan to enjoy these kinds of games. It's a win-win!
We await your return, warrior.